discussion part, and there was a spare 10 minutes there, so I've made that until past. So we've got 10 minutes opening by Camille and then 20 minutes of discussion, not 10.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's nicer. 20 minutes is much easier.
I have not updated the discussion part.
Where do you have those timing? Oh, I see them. Yeah, okay.
So I've made that until past.
Okay, great. Yeah, cool.
I've just gone live somewhere.
Yeah, sorry, I just set up the YouTube, so we are technically going live, so people can hear you. Everybody, if you guys can be quiet for a couple of minutes, and then letting people, we can share. Please share this link also.
And if anyone's got YouTube open, if you could mute it.
Right, it says 5 o'clock my time. That should be 6 CET and 9 a.m. Pacific. Don't know what the D stands for. So welcome anyone who's joining us. We are streaming out to YouTube, so I don't see you, but I hope you're there, and we hope to have an interesting discussion today. My name is Camille Baker, and I am from the University for the Creative Arts in UK. Warm welcome to the friends of STARTS and Leonardo communities, and for all the people joining us for the first time. And this session is really about discussing some of the things that have occurred during lockdown between the two organizations. So STARTS initially reached out to Leonardo during the STARTS residency symposium in Paris in early March. And then at the beginning of lockdown in Europe, that is, shortly after and through our conversations, we jointly initiated some online conversation sessions. So we really wanted to find out where our synergies and where our community synergies were, but also what was happening for our community, particularly in the art, science, art, tech communities across North America and in Europe, how the COVID-19 was and is still impacting these communities in terms of innovation and creation and co-creation in particular, and how we both could support new connections and new collaborations, and really thinking about what this opportunity, if you could say it's an opportunity when there's so much tragedy, but this moment of the COVID pandemic could offer in terms of bringing people together in different ways. These sessions, we offered sort of brainstorming and workshopping activity, and we found synergies that helped participants to form new collaborations around particular topics, not only between Leonardo and STARTS, but also many of the people who participated. So today, the idea is to reflect on some of these conversations and results. We will move forward with this after today, but we just wanted to sort of a work in progress discussion about what we found. And we have some artists, participants, maybe not all artists, but participants from those discussions with us today who can share what's come of their collaborations and co-creations during this time. So I'm going to hand it over to our esteemed colleagues from Leonardo to carry on and talk further about what we've come up with and what's happened. So Danielle, over to you.
Hi.
But we're not actually live on the STARTS channel.
Okay.
Do we need to start again?
Yeah.
Are we not? It says we are. Okay, hold on a second.
Yeah, because we are on YouTube and it's still the cover of our image.
Oh no. Okay.
You have to press go live within the YouTube as well. Did you do
that? Lucy, it seems we have 2 links on the YouTube. Can you check it, please?
Sorry, it's showing me that we are live on YouTube.
So for everyone who's listening.
So
Lucy, please, if you are using the right one.
Oh, because people are, yep, we're live on YouTube. Thank you, whoever is 12.
Yes, but I think you are not using the right key. It needs to be another.
Oh, well, if we're live, we're live, no?
Okay, so no need to try it again. Good news.
Okay.
Good news. Over to you, Danielle.
Well, part of learning about working with communities and across technology and in this really interesting space that we are in this syndemic time in our lives where we have so many climate disasters, economic disasters, racial and equity disasters, and then health and having us being able to come together from all over the world. Whether it be having these technical problems or not. I just want to say that everybody in this space who is connecting to this call, whether both with STARTS and the amazing creative artists that are joining us, and then those of you who are watching us, you are part of this as well. We know that you're out there and you're here because you are actually interested in connecting and engaging and moving forward. And what can two really influential organizations do together? And that's such an exciting thing to think about. Like, what can you actually accomplish if you took both of our ecosystems, one that spread throughout the EU and even beyond into South America, Leonardo, who reaches over 78 countries worldwide, and thinking about all these critical issues. How do we solve these syndemic problems? Well, this is not going to be done in a vacuum, and it's not going to be done with one Facebook group or community conversation or symposium. This is something that is going to be iterative and evolving and collaborative, and we're going to learn from it. We're going to fail in certain areas, and that is okay. And we should accept that and learn from that and excite that. We should ask people from industry, from policy, from artists and creatives, everyone who wants to come in and actually look at these wicked world problems and come together. Well, now we can do this in a really impactful way. Why? Because we have STARTS, which has done incredible work with the residencies and holding space and thinking about the ways that we can apply tools and collaborative process and support. And then Leonardo, who has also a full cycle way of approaching every idea. So you come into our community and we'll help you see that idea throughout, from its residency inception to its publication. But most importantly, we're a think tank, we're a network, we're a village of networks, and coming together with this other really important village that it starts is what really makes this relationship really fruitful. So I want to say that we experimented a little bit this year with these conversations, which we're going to talk a lot more about today, but we're going to think about what can we do moving forward, because this is not the end. Okay, if you look at my background, I just want to show you the background here. This is where I am at in California. This was yesterday's weather. Okay, this is not photoshopped. This is not a filter. This was yesterday's weather. Okay, I want that to go through your mind about where we are in the world at this time, and look at where your sky is. Look at where your place is, and look at where you are now, and come in and join us. And this is really an invitation. And I want to say, working with these amazing women from STARTS has been really just important to me, and it has a sense of community and collaboration. And I want to thank everyone from STARTS who's worked with the Leonardo team throughout this whole time. And I'm going to hand it over to the rest of the STARTS team. But thanks to everyone out there who's listening, and thanks to everyone who's in this space. We're doing this together, and we're very excited about it. So let's change the world.
That's your turn, Orly. Thanks, Danielle. Are you with us, Orly? You're going to take over now. I'll unmute you. Oh, more technical issues. Well, she's moving around. Well, I would say thanks for the enthusiasm, Danielle. Maybe once Orly is settled down, she can bring in her 2 cents. I think one of the things that we want to say is that STARTS has been around in some form or another since 2012, and we've been building in various ways through various projects and building our community. And Orly will tell you more on that.
Yeah, sorry, I had some issues with some noise in the background. So yeah, first of all, I share totally your enthusiasm and your joy to have initiated this collaboration. And maybe to complete, for me, it was very important to have this to initiate this conversation with Leonardo at the time when we did it, because it was, as you said, it has been already some time that we collaborate and we know each other, but it's not casual that we decided during the lockdown to initiate these conversations. First of all, because I think we couldn't go out and we had to stay home and think more and act less. So it was a good opportunity to start new things, but also because we felt so isolated in our homes that it was good, at least for me, it was a good feeling to know that across the ocean, we had some friends that had the main concerns, and another community of Leonardo that we could share with them about what was happening. Because now it's quite better, but remember that in April or May we were pretty concerned about many things, and this is why also we chose to elaborate on these particular thematics, on the climate change and on data and surveillance, and how we treat nature, and how also arts can contribute to this changing, because this changes because when we are in the situation of crisis like we were and still are, we think really that artists have a great role to play, and this is why we really wanted to initiate and to impulse this movement at that time. So it was for me really nice, and also it was interesting to reflect on the methodologies, on the formats that we could use, not to make only one session and that's over. Like we saw a lot of meetings in Zoom and workshop and debates that were 1 hour, and it gave us like a feeling of frustration because we wanted to do more. We didn't want to organize a session of 1 hour and then it's over. So this is why I also have these 2 sessions, and we created a shared document. We created also a channel on Discord at the initiative of the attendees. And so we are still reflecting on this format and how to ensure that really it's useful. So I would be happy also to have some thoughts maybe of the audience on the format and the methodologies we can use to enhance these collaborations.
Do we want to talk about what that format was? I think that might be useful to discuss how we brought people together and how we sort of we workshopped it in many countries at the same time on Zoom. I'm happy to do that, but I open the floor to anybody else who wants to discuss that. Danielle?
Yeah, I think the format really came out of when we each were doing our own conversations. And Leonardo's network, we called it Coffee and Cocktails, because as everyone who's watching right now, I don't know what time zone you're in, but it's 9 o'clock in the morning for us. And then I think it's around dinner time in the EU. And so this seemed to be really a relevant time to be able to connect people across time zones. We also had several people coming in from Australia and in Japan and in China. And so being able to have that cross time zone thing was really important. But part of it was, as we were developing these conversations, which were like, as soon as we were in the pandemic, we said, okay, we got to get everybody together. And what do they want to talk about? We just held space, and everybody at that time was like, oh my God, what are we doing? What's happening? But then as things started to develop, people started to really come and say, you know what, we need to actually now take this moment and do something even further, even like go dive even deeper. And I always say with our organization, with Leonardo, we start deep. We're not really good at the surface level stuff. We're just like, we like to get really super into what the critical theory part is. And when STARTS was also doing conversations similar to ours. And so we thought, well, how do we actually connect these together, but do it in this way that we can actually dive deeper over a period of time. So connect all the things that incubate ideas. So connecting as a group, connecting as a small group, and also having that time, that thematic, to really respond and discuss through Discord channels and through shared Google Docs, and then come together for another moment of reflection and sharing later on. And this was a very short experiment, because if you think about it, it was about 1.5 months, which in the long run, we could actually think about moving this out even further. But it was about really pushing for the ability to actually get into a more collaborative and deeper state of mind. And that's why when we created these formats in the way that we did, it was really about allowing for that multiple approach to individual, group, and presentation of particular issues that we're addressing during this endemic.
Yeah, it was really interesting timing for us too, because I think we were just about to we were in the middle of pushing our community and growing our community and trying to find ways to reach our community. And so at that moment we said, oh my God, we've got to get out there and virtually and find people and see how they're doing. I think that point you made about checking in and finding out how people are doing, how they're responding, particularly this sort of art, science, technology world, which is the focus of STARTS. We're trying to do collaborations. Our whole focus is making space for collaborative innovation and collaborative works of art and other forms of co-creation. And we found it really, I hate to say this word opportunistic, but a good moment, let's say, to really be there for our community. And then we found you and thought, this is another really amazing, respected community of really interesting people doing interesting things around the world. We've got to find ways to bring together. And I think the idea of having small breakout groups, which is what we did, just for anybody who's not really sure what we did. We had sessions, we had these topics, and we put people into, or asked them what category they wanted to be in. We put them together, and then we asked them to spend a little time, maybe it wasn't enough time, but spend a little time just talking through, what does this topic mean to you? What do you feel is critical to address, and what do you see as something that could move forward? And of course, like Danielle said, it was only a very short time frame, so of a month or so, of a few sessions. So I think in some cases, yeah, people were just sort of getting going, but in other cases, and I think we have to move into that part of this discussion, we had some amazing people who found each other through the discussions and started to build on something and create something. So I'm wondering if we can take this moment to introduce our people, our participants who came along at that time and started something. So maybe I'll just start with who's on the screen. Maybe we can have all the participants show your faces now and show us who you are. And I'll maybe start with Tal. Just a brief introduction, and then we'll move to your presentation, if that's okay. So just a quick hello, and then we'll come back to you.
Hi, I'm Tal. I'm an artist and a curator, and I'm just opening a new museum of art and nanoscience.
Kat, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Kat Mustatia. I'm a playwright and technologist, and I'm currently a member of New Inc., which is an art and tech incubator at the New Museum of Contemporary Art in New York.
Great, thank you. Laura.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Ina. I'm a collaborator of CAT. I'm a researcher in computational linguistics at Pompeu Fabra University in Barcelona.
Great, thank you. And Isabel, sorry about that. Oh, we can't hear you, Isabel. It says you're on mute. I'm not sure how to unmute you. Lucy, can you maybe see if you can unmute Isabel?
I tried.
Oh, I heard you there, Isabel, for a moment. So strange. You might have to, yeah. Well, you say hello and we'll come back to you. We'll maybe refresh and come back to you. Sorry, Isabel. So Tal, maybe you can start and show us what came of these discussions.
Okay. So I'm talking here from this beautiful house of Sholem Asch, which is a writer that lived at the beginning of the 20th century. And I'm grateful to my host, which is Bat Yam Museums. And Sholem Asch wrote about night and how night is interlaced with light and day. And for the past 12 years, I'm still collaborating with artist Caroline Maxwell, an American artist, on a project called Department of Nocturnal Affairs, where we type reports from people that had nocturnal animal sighting. And we have a big archive, and when we did it in the past, it always was unique because people did not see many nocturnal animals. And during the pandemic, suddenly all the nocturnal animals that were hiding away from the city and the rush of the cars suddenly appeared. And I have a group of jackals that is residing underneath my window, although I live in the middle of the city. And many bats and hedgehogs are walking by freely. And we wanted to amplify that. And in this house, we are working now on a series of nocturnal animals and night events. But in general, I'll show you a little bit of what we are doing. About that. It'll take me a second to go through it. Okay, so actually, this is our department, and we're residing here at the Asch House. And this is what we do in normal days. Whenever there's a festival or an art event, we're typing reports from people. And those reports are stamped to be official. It's like an old bureaucracy. and you get your report, and we also reporting those events to the local zoological department. So it's not only an art event, there is a benefit of knowing all this information. We put on the map the location of the animals, and now we have so many locations, the map are full of dots right now, which is very different from ordinary days. And when we cannot meet people and take reports from them, we actually try to find another way to do it. And through Leonardo meetings and START meeting, we talked a lot about how can we also make art when there's no art spaces, when all of them are closed due to COVID. And I used my window, my living room window, and projected outside to the park so people can watch it and still keep the 2 meters distancing between them. It was an art festival, and suddenly all my neighbors knew that there was an artist living in one of the buildings. They were quite surprised. And I worked with 2 of my collaborators, Caroline Maxwell, that is working with me in the Department of Nocturnal Affairs, and Sharona Florsheim, which is a choreographer, and we're working together in a project in the Hebrew University that deals with self-assembly. So somehow those 2 ideas connected, and both Caroline at Pasadena, California, and me used the outside parks for our artworks instead of gallery spaces. So she made this poster of a little bit humoristic about 6 feet, the distancing of 6 feet. And we posted it, she posted it on this billboard, and I posted it on the billboard in the park just next to me. And slowly, I was watching from my window how people looked at it and were interested. And I was there in the park during the festival and before and after to answer questions and collect oral reports from people that came by. There were lots of notes on the trees during those weeks, just as clues to what is going to happen. And I put notes in the mailboxes of the neighbors. So this event was spread out both in Tel Aviv and in Pasadena. There was another location on the right side here. I got a front store from the city to project my video. And we created kind of a package of an artwork that can go anywhere and be useful at pandemic or in spaces that art is not available. So it's easy to just have an art event for the public, and the only thing that needs to be made is connection with the local zoological department to know what nocturnal animals are around, so each artist can adjust it according to their space. And the other thing that happened, also a curator of the Federal Museum of Nanoscience and Art that was supposed to open just in March, and it actually never opened officially. It's open now. And I left the artworks by themselves. A curator needs to curate and care for their works, but they were left for themselves for a couple of months. And when I came in to the artwork, some of them are live experience. So when those experiments left by themselves, things happened. The sun interacted with the materials. This is an artwork by artist Elad Schneiderman, researcher Shai Tirosh. Jonathan Spiegelglass also worked on this piece. And it's a copper solution that is influenced by sound waves. And the sun also interacted with this. And suddenly there were all kinds of crystals created through the time. So it's not only the non-human animals, it's also the non-human artworks that were changing. And when I came back to the artworks, I decided to look closer into them. We talked about how our view changed through the Leonardo meetings and START meeting. It was this idea of coming back and look again. So I took those samples to the lab, and because the museum is in a building of labs, I had the opportunity to look at them closer and find new insights. So if the museum is still closed, I can broadcast those insights and send them to visitors that will visit actually virtually the museum. Also, I looked at the nano of those works and got more ideas of how they look like from inside. We're always talking about going deeper into the art. So this is really physically going deeper into the art. This is a painting made by Caroline Maxwell, same artist I'm collaborating with her here. She drew a piece of made of salt water from the Dead Sea and Salt Lake. And those paintings changed in time and started to get pinkish. And this whole beautiful research made by researcher Gili Cohen-Taburi and a paper conservator on this piece. And I had a chance to look closer and see what happened to an artwork when you leave it all by itself to change. So this is actually this paper from close and closer and even closer. We see inside the cellulose all kinds of crystals that were created into the paper. So these two aspects of things that happened. And the last thing I can report on is Transmit event. It was an event that, again, was supposed to happen in the Natural History Museum of Tel Aviv, event of art and science, a local event that was canceled. But now we are doing this event to be international. I met so many people during the meetings of Leonardo and STARTS that I felt there's a whole community we want to collaborate with. And at the end of November, we're going to have an art and science event. And you're all very welcome to participate.
Brilliant. Those are amazing. And Lucy says there's a lot of great reactions on YouTube to this work. So fantastic. It's really beautiful. Fab. So thank you. That we'll come back to you and we'll talk about it later. Maybe I can ask Kat to go next.
Sure. I'm going to share my screen now. Let me know if you see it. Do you see it?
No, I think Tal has to stop sharing. Okay, we see something.
Now I'll try again.
Yeah, try again.
Okay, do you see it now?
Yes.
So, and yeah, so Laura, Aina, and I met in Paris in last year. I was in Paris to give a talk, a very brief talk about my interest in giving voice to improbable creatures. As a playwright, I was at the time working on a play about a cyclops, and here is me presenting about the cyclops. And Laura and Laura was there because she was her PhD supervisor, Gemma Boleto, was part of a STARTS residency. So the fact that we met was very serendipitous. We got to talking. We kept in touch once she returned to Barcelona and I returned to New York. And we started to just have a series of conversations remotely And those conversations were pretty wide-ranging, but touched on both of our interests in language and specifically in computational techniques. For language, we were both a bit, I would say, unimpressed by things like GPT-3, the text generating tools, because they lack what human language has, which is a velocity and a direction and a goal to communicate something specific. So, but one of the things we started to talk about was the Oulipo movement. It was a literary movement in the 1960s where writers would make use of language constraints, sometimes quite elaborate ones. The most famous example is a novel by Georges Perec called La Disparition, and it's written entirely without using the letter E. So these kinds of things are now much easier to do computationally. But then it was, we both asked ourselves, yeah, but to what end? But Laura built but we decided to try, and one of the reasons we worked with these ideas of constraints was because I had written a play about a bunch of women, all named Amanda Palmer, who turn into cats. And the insight was, what if the way that these women talk is a bit peculiar? Maybe it's still intelligible as English, but maybe it sounds a little different than what we understand English to be. And so this came in very handy to explore what might be the language for catness. So we used a pre-trained language generating model available on the web and augmented it to produce sentences that only contain the letter E, or that don't contain the letter E, I'm sorry. And then of course you can imagine it's actually very trivial to make sentences that don't contain any number of other letters, but you find out pretty fast that omitting a few letters can like omitting too many letters produces sort of nonsense. And the idea of language restraint is, how do you pick the right kind of constraint to produce something that's still interesting? And that was the light bulb moment. So I tried to translate, let's say, one of the speeches of these cat women into a no E text, and it worked so well that it's now the first speech of this particular play. And then, of course, more talking and more excitement about, oh, this is so interesting, but how do we go further? And there's a lot of constraints you can do. You can constrain the length of a word, of the words that are produced, for example. But what I really got excited by was the idea, if you can take letters away, but what if you favor certain letters? So one easy example was, what if you favor F and Z and produce language that is really very heavy with those sounds and those letters? And the effect turns out to be very comical and a little vulgar. And so I just want to show you some examples. Here is the Amanda Palmer text. So the language and the speech is rather operatic, and it's a bit elegant, and it has a kind of lulling quality that I feel is very beautiful for catness. And then here is the language constraint is favoring F and Z. And I wrote a speech for a lizard, someone who is turning into lizards, into a lizard, which was another play that I had. And as I said, the language is a little bit vulgar, a little bit comical. So the insight of this work was different constraints can create different moods in the language, and that is expressive in itself. And I'm very interested in continuing this. So what does flyness sound like? What does treeness sound like? And what would be the constraint by which you evoke treeness? But of course, Laura and I had hoped to meet back in March in person in New York. And of course that became impossible. And also any kind of performance work became impossible. And so, you know, with everything on hold, one of the things that I kept going back to was constraint and how it might be evocative. So during the lockdown, I started to do something a little bit different. It's a series of Instagram posts called Voidopolis. I think of it as a kind of performance. It's a retelling of Dante's Inferno, and it's informed by the grim experience of wandering through New York City during the pandemic. And instead of Virgil, my guide is this caustic, mean hobo named Nikita, who's not very nice to me. And the story was intended to unfold over Instagram over about 40-ish posts. It's currently in progress. This is episode 9. The idea here was that I not only omit the letter E, and I'm using constraint here, language constraint, in a more conceptual way than the synthetic language. Here, the letter E is also meant to talk about loss. But I'm also wiping away the people from the photographs. So, and in addition, the works themselves, the posts themselves, once I finish this story of 40 posts, will be wiped away as well. So this is a moment in time in which it makes sense to tell the story, but it's possible that a year from now, when we hopefully are all resuming a normal life, maybe we don't want to read such stories anymore, and maybe there's not a value in keeping them around. Maybe forgetting is what we're going to want to do more of, forgetting this very terrible time. And so the project is still ongoing. I think today I posted post number 18 of about 40 of the posts. You can look at my Instagram account for it. But then this book has also is part of the Ars Electronica and the Grids Exposure Festival. And we were invited to basically take over the Kodame Instagram. So this week, these posts are going both to Kodame and to my Instagram account. And I don't know yet, because I'm doing it every day. But it's possible that during the week, somehow the posts will diverge, and what you'll see on my Instagram and on the Kodame Instagram will start to look different.
Great. I'm going to have to interrupt you because we're apparently out of time now for you. Apologies.
I'm done.
Fantastic. Thank you. I think now it's over to Laura.
Hi, sorry, I don't actually have to make a presentation. Yeah, I mean, Kat presented basically what we did together, so.
Sorry, we'll move swiftly on. Apparently I was muted, apologies. So sorry, Laura, if you didn't have anything to add, that's great. But we can also come back to that later, maybe, if we have time. So I would like to invite Isabel to take the lead on this now. And you're working with Carlos as well?
Yes.
Yes, I arrived a little late, but
no worries. So maybe you can co-present then, yeah?
Yeah. So just a, I guess, quick intro to the presentation. Isabella and I are presenting on basically, which is my interpretation of what you guys wanted us to present, is sort of the results of our conversations from the previous S+T+ARTS Leonardo Zoom meeting. So we met through the lens of the non-human group. So essentially, we came up with an idea based on our conversation. So I'm going to we are going to talk about that. So not so much about like our own work, I guess. But if you want to find out more about our work, I'm just going to post a link to my website, and Isabel, you can do the same if you like. So
Great, and we'll put that on the YouTube channel for you.
Yeah, sure. Let me launch my Google Slides here. Okay, let me share the screen.
And yeah, maybe while Carlos is preparing the screen, we have a very little experience working together. This is purely a meeting through the STARTS and Leonardo happening. We had no idea that we even existed, so it was a very good, cool surprise.
Fantastic.
Hang on, Zoom is yelling at me here. Hang on.
Maybe Isabel, you could, and Carlos, you could also just say where you're coming from and
yes,
and all that, and we can post the links in the YouTube as well.
Okay. I am. I'll just introduce myself. I'm Carlos Castellanos. I'm a professor here at the Rochester Institute of Technology, and I'm an artist and technologist. And if you want to learn more, you can of course go to my website.
And I'm Isabel. I'm co-founder of a Fab Lab. I'm also like kind of a biohacker, or at least trying to be, and artist. And I believe in taking over the research world, as anybody can also have something to do with it. And so today I'm talking from the Fab Lab.
Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you make it big?
Yes. Yes.
Great.
Yeah. Can you make it full screen?
So yeah, so as I said, Isabel and I met through the Lens of the Non-Human group, and this, I would say, still very much in progress, but this idea came from those conversations. And I guess you could sort of think about it as a kind of a hybrid biological digital personhood in the sense of like corporate personhood. So it involves essentially phytoplankton and the blockchain. So we were thinking about sort of creating this network of phytoplankton sculptures, or which are essentially bioreactors, sort of connected across the globe via the blockchain, and they would function as sort of, like I said, kind of digital persons in a sense, leveraging their sort of capital power in a market. So this is a drawing that Isabel made that I'll sort of, I guess, explain a little further as we go. But that's essentially
during the conversation.
What's that?
That was done during the conversation while we were talking.
During the conversation.
That's the emanation of when we were, shooting ID together.
That's right. That's right. So it's an action sketch, maybe, I guess, like an action painting. So the way this is accomplished is via the blockchain through what's called a decentralized autonomous organization, right? Which there's not a whole lot of time to go into it. And I'm still, kind of researching and learning about the blockchain myself, but it's a kind of like a corporation. It's an organization that's represented by rules encoded, in code. It's done typically through smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain. And it's not, there's no central sort of authority, but it can create, it could sort of do financial transactions on the blockchain. And what's interesting about it, at least for right now, is that the legal status is, what we would think of as a sort of business organization, is kind of fuzzy, right? So these DAOs, through a sort of like intelligent agent, sort of representing the algae, would sort of be this sort of player in the market, so to speak. And I'll go into it a little more right now. I think, Isabel, you can explain the Plantoid project. So this is sort of an extension or inspired by the Plantoid project that
maybe like a little bit of a fork. Yeah, Carlos, can you actually your screen is like, you can make it full screen the presentation, it'll be prettier. It doesn't matter, we can see, but it'll be prettier. So
better.
so
I can't see my notes now, but that's okay.
Oh, all right.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
And maybe go back to the plantoid picture.
Oh yeah.
And then it's great. Okay, so yeah, Plantoid, it's an art project. It's an open source art project by the art collective Chaos. Actually, it was presented probably in 2016 at Ars Electronica, and I met Primavera di Filippi during a workshop on blockchain. It was in we talked briefly about it, and then I took on the project since it's open source, made a few Plantoid, worked with that, and then forked it as a forest as a DAO, because basically the Plantoid thing is to say those are half plants, half robots, and it's a way of showing what is the blockchain, what will be a life on the blockchain. So those arts, those plants are asking for money and through the blockchain, and then when they have enough money, they own it themselves. So when they have enough, they can actually hire artists, and the artist will make more sculptures, more Plantoids. So it's a questioning of basically the art world, and also who owns who, kind of. So that was quite interesting for the art world, but also even more interesting in nature. So that's how it became Forest as a DAO, where each tree will own itself and be able to do its own, to represent itself also, and for example, hire lawyers to help forests not get destroyed. And similar projects are like Terra Zero in Berlin, which is also a forest based on a blockchain that owns itself. The Earth Bank of Codes also is interesting, like thinking about how could we have the whole biodiversity being integrated in a blockchain and have and then reclaim its rights. So that was to make it super short, and I give the back the go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll just to add to that, and as far as I know, so I'm in New York. In the state of New York, there's no, for those of you maybe who don't know, in the United States, corporations, you file your incorporation file in individual states, right? Like California, New York, Florida, whatever. So in New York State, there's no requirement that a corporation, that the board of directors actually be human, right? There's nothing explicitly in the law. So actually, Natalie Jeremijenko did a project with fish, and she wanted to create a corporation or a nonprofit and put the fish on the board of directors. So these ideas have kind of been around. So that's the idea here. The DAO, yes, the algae would own themselves, and there's no, as far as I know, just DAOs in general, the legal status is fuzzy. So that means there's really, as far as I can tell, at least for now, nothing legally stopping us from having the algae as a sort of owning itself and being on the board of directors. So how it would work is, so algae, phytoplankton, so just phytoplankton are sort of, it's a term for photosynthetic kind of marine, usually like really small microscopic organisms, which includes many microalgae, but also other like photosynthetic bacteria and everything. So, but I'll just use the term algae for the rest of the presentation. So they're typically grown in photobioreactors, similar to what you see here. They wouldn't look exactly like this, but I use the term sculpture, so we would sort of come up with our own designs, but they would still be sort of these photobioreactors. And then this autonomous kind of AI agent is sort of representing, sort of like the legal representative of this DAO, algae DAO, right? And then they can trade, the algae can trade the oxygen it produces. Its carbon sequestration could sort of be sold as a service. And it can even license to extract a certain amount of itself, of the algae itself, from the bioreactors and sell it in a market, right, as a biomass, right, for energy or whatnot, right, all via the blockchain. And it uses that to maintain itself and expand itself. So more bioreactors, more light, more server space, what have you. It can even set up its own cryptocurrency mining rig, right? To actually generate its own currency, right? So the idea is eventually the algae sort of again, would, sorry, I'm blocking my own slides here, would sort of own itself.
Yeah, well, also that the first it will be an experience in a lab, but then we will be able to take it at least in imagination, but then maybe in real life to take it to the real algae in the wild, like once a proof of concept.
Exactly. And after the project initiators, ourselves, and an initial group of investors, like STARTS, someone else, sort of invest, essentially, you know, have money to buy the initial resources, you sort of sell it to the algae DAO as debt. And the DAO can begin its life and then sort of its path to self-ownership. Essentially pay back the initial debt and then own itself. And
great, I'm going to have to interrupt you. We're running low on time.
Sure.
But hopefully you don't have too much more to say.
That's it.
But we will have discussion.
We'll just say that it's not just algae. I'll just say that there's other possibilities, but we're starting with algae because phytoplankton produce most of the oxygen we breathe. So that's sort of a good place to start. If we can't breathe, we can't do anything, right? So,
yeah.
And there's links if you want to find out more. Email and links.
So just to say, I've just had a report from the chat that we have 40 people on YouTube, which is really good, as some of the ARS talks have been quite low in numbers. Orly is going to ask each of you a question.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so I would start with Tal. So first of all, I have to say that I have been really happy to see that you met some people and you really did something out of this conversation. So it's a very nice feeling, I think, for all the team. And I remember you were in my group, so I remember that you had a lot of questioning of this digital festival, what would happen. And so I'm very happy that something happened. And I think it's very unexpected what happens with this conversation and with your collaboration, and it shows also how much you're resilient, because it was not planned, and you created something with I don't remember the name, with this girl in the US, so it's very nice to see. And so I am curious about what next, because it's also one of the topics. We initiated something and we impulsed this movement, and you met someone and you started to collaborate. So we're curious, I think, about what is next for you. Will you continue with this art in the park, or was it something that was for the lockdown and now you want to move on with another thing?
I think I'll continue with it, because it's like a package of an artwork that you can send away. I also thought about it like the old days, where they used to have like fires from campfires from mountain to mountain to announce something. So we can announce the art or announce collaborations by sending this artwork and actually putting it spreading it out. Also, this opportunity now, I'm going to be to reside here for the next month. So this house is full of inspirations and books, and audience is going to come here and hopefully virtually or actually. And so far the drawers, I can give you a little peek into the drawers here, if you will see. Caroline already sent me some images of nocturnal animals that are residing here and hiding in all the cabinets, ready to be found by whoever comes in. The house is open to the public. I'm also collecting information about the local nocturnal animals in this area. The event that is going to be in November, the event of all the art and science event is evolving. We are collecting ideas, and those ideas that were presented here are exciting. I'm going to contact all of you later and ask if you want to participate, of course. So it seems like it pushed so many things and generated so many options that that is great.
Nice, it's very nice to hear. Congratulations. And yes, please keep us posted.
Yeah, I'd love to.
So, okay, I wanted to ask Kat and Laura, because you met before our conversation, so it's Start Leonardo, but it's another way of meeting, and that's very nice to see this, that it happens also. And so you are in 2 different continents, and I wanted to ask you how do you work together not on a daily basis, but do you fix some deadlines, or do you have a specific methodologies, or how is it when you work together? If you can just tell us a bit more about what is a meeting between us, how do you proceed?
You go, Laura.
Yeah, so actually, I think this is a very interesting question, because in a way we had to start doing things remotely from the very beginning. And so in the pandemic, we really didn't have to, we didn't have to change that. But of course, it's now even more forced, because as Kat was mentioning, we were supposed to meet. And I was really looking forward to that, because of course, that would have been, like this was supposed to happen in March, and it would have been a, very interesting opportunity to discuss, like, also, ideas and how to go farther with things. And but so what we basically did was to exchange like emails and have meetings, essentially. So this was kind of the way we were working. And with the meetings were really what I really like about them is that they're really sort of about doing brainstorming and really exploring many ideas. And like, I can talk to her about my research, and like, I usually bring the more sort of like sort of research-oriented academic perspective on language, and then she's kind of brings instead sort of the artistic perspective. So these conversations are really interesting, because they get to places that you didn't necessarily sort of planned in advance. Yeah, so I think, and then usually I kind of receive an email after some days where Kat is like, oh, I had this idea, I wanted to do this. And then I think, oh, maybe I can sort of play around with this and I can implement that. And so we go back and forth, on these ideas. That's basically, I think, the way we work.
Yeah. Okay, nice. Yes, that's the beauty of STARTS collaborations. It's something that comes back very often, that you say that you have unexpected results and unexpected things happening. So happy to see that it's ongoing, and also please keep in touch and let us know what is happening.
Yes, yeah, we will.
Okay, so now I would like to maybe ask Isabel and Carlos what also is next for you, because you say that, of course, it's a very beginning of your collaboration, and I think we are very happy with Danielle and Camille and all the team to see that it's something very real came out of these sessions that we were doing at home, and we didn't know exactly what would happen. So it's very nice to see this. And so what are the next steps for you in this collaboration?
Yeah, well, so yes, I'll just say it is kind of amazing that actually things did happen, given all that. I'll just speak for myself as another person in academia, that things are way more busy. You figure, oh, we have a break because with the pandemic, things are much more hectic. So I'm very happy we were able to just get this idea in some kind of semi-coherent manner out there. I think the next thing would be, I'll let Isabel speak more about this, but try to start culturing some algae and try to build the network a little more, so get more people involved, and apply for funding. Maybe, I guess, in that order, maybe, I don't know.
the other. Maybe I was thinking we can call it a initial art offering, to just take the language of the blockchain thing. They have the ICO and everything. So this one is a bit of an initial art offering. Like also who wants to participate? It's open for other people. Like we share the link of the Discord. This is really something that's at the beginning. It links with other projects, and I think we're gonna try each on our end of the world. I'm in France. Carlos is near New York, so we're for sure not gonna meet anytime soon. But start doing, and then maybe this initial art offering is also people gonna want to invest in the first little bit of oxygen the algae are gonna make, or some. We're gonna try to push it, I guess. But please, I think if other artists wants to join in, that'd be quite interesting to make it a bigger experiment and enrich the concept.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, we could also, I would be very interested to discuss more with you and see how we can help you at STARTS, at least, I don't know, make a call for joining in the website, on social media, or like an announcement, or we can make a session to present more and to try to invite people and to expand your network, so we can think about simple things maybe that we can do to support you, and we would be very happy to do this.
Yes, that'd be great. I mean, this is not a project that, I mean, if we talk about sort of the long-term vision, I don't know if I mentioned it in the slides, but the point is it requires a lot of different expertise and a lot of collaboration. Both, you know, technical and artistic and everything in between. So yeah, anything like that, I think certainly at this stage.
Yeah, the ideal thing would be to be able to get in touch with the World Economic Forum, because they have, I stole one of the slides from them.
I didn't think of that, actually. That's a good...
That would be great, because they have announced the great recess, and we have actually the director of the International Monetary Fund that's into it. The Prince Charles also they're saying, like, we want to really do something new. I went all over the website, couldn't find any new idea, only a statement of how shit is going very, very bad and we need to do something. And they're really doing a great job at explaining how it's going bad. But I think what will be a super next step, and maybe with Leonardo and STARTS, you can get them to say, okay, let's get together and really bring science and art into the solution, and really try to do something.
You know, again, in the spirit of the non-human, the idea is to, again, give, in this case, the algae, the sort of agency, the same agency investors, you know, really rich people have on politics and on economies, right? So I use this term, I grabbed this term from the sort of political science literature of a virtual Senate or a virtual parliament, that if they don't like what governments are proposing, they could, you know, just take their capital out of the country or attack currencies, like almost minute by minute. So what if the algae could do that, right? And sort of remake the kind of global economy in its own interests. And presumably would still need humans, so they wouldn't totally, you know, shove us out the door, but that's the idea. I'm sure the World Economic Forum will love that.
Yeah, easy. And maybe if the Commission is listening, a new call can be launched to bring all these people together. Just saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for letting us present.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure. So Camille, do you want to start?
No, I think Danielle's going to take the lead on this next.
Okay, hi. So these are such a really important and critical projects, and I think that it's gaining the attention of so many important agencies around the world that are finally starting to pay attention to the need for this type of collaborative research. And I hope to see this continue and to help support your work across the board of how things are going. There's been a couple of questions from the audience. One of them was around looking at Leonardo as an organization, how we're looking towards this type of dialogues and how we're reflecting it in our mission. Well, we've been evolving over the last several years. Anyone who has been following us deeply, we've gone through a lot of new and really incredible, important organizational changes, especially looking at how we are exemplifying our values and our ethics, how we're addressing social justice and equity, and really looking at what we can offer the world, not just within our publications, but really about the collaborative teams in which all of you are bringing today. And a lot of that has to come with thinking about our network more as a think tank or a global think tank. And as we're really addressing these critical issues, it's not just about, okay, we're going to put it in one article, or we're going to have it shared in one residency. This is really about exemplifying a full cycle, a full ideation of these particular projects. And some of these things may take multiple years to do. So anyone who's really diving into research, you're really averaging around a 2 to 5 year period in terms of actually really making some project really alchemize in the way that it needs to. And so when looking at these communities, like working with STARTS, which is to us is a really critical community to connect with because of where the agency is located, and also it's also really method is very similar to ours, very decentralized. Everyone on this call, from Lucy to Arlie, Camille, everybody's in a different location. We're really distributed. This is really similar to how we work, and this is actually how the world works now, right? I think everybody on this call is coming in from someplace else in the world. So with that being said, what I would like to say and ask of everybody on YouTube and everyone in this call is actually to give us some feedback on how we can develop these collaborative communities even deeper. One of the things that we're doing internally at Leonardo is we actually have a research group that's actually started to really analyze these community conversations in a way that is able to connect to other community conversations through a way of looking at systems architecture and dialogue that's coming out of that. And we'll have more of that on Friday afternoon Pacific time through a Vision for Change workshop that you'll see in the YouTube link. But what I'd like to ask of everyone right now, since we have us and STARTS here and all of you, is give us some feedback on how do we actually address some of the needs that these dialogues can and these connected groups can do to help your work and then the community that you represent as well.
Okay, so I have an idea for a need. For the past few years, I was searching for either scientists to collaborate with, or artists that are working in the same field that I'm working, or collaborative efforts that I want to know about. I would love to have an app or a website where I can type, let's say, salt and mushrooms. Who is working on that, on a collaborative project like that now? Or algae in France, or so on. So I would love to have this opportunity.
Right, I hear you. I've heard that similar requests, and I think that's something that's definitely could be done in the pipeline for sure.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And I would also suggest finding some technique for creating serendipitous meetings between people. Just I think we're a good example of that happening and taking off unexpectedly. Sometimes when you play matchmaker, you don't really know if the people are really gonna gel together. But if there's techniques for just sort of bringing a small cluster of people together who might just chat, you never know what can come out of that.
Yeah, I would say that matchmaking is an ongoing challenge, not a bad challenge, but I think it's always an interesting one, whether it be, obviously we know the romantic ones, they have algorithms for that, but in terms of bringing people together creatively, and in terms of this forum of art and technology, art science, it is an ongoing challenge, but we're trying to do some of that in STARTS, and we have been exploring that since I've been involved since 2012, and it is on our agenda, but we'll keep thinking about that, because the serendipity is really special, like you say.
And maybe I'll add something is, and that's what we did with actually today's meeting, is to put a little bit of deadline and opportunities for us, like, because we start with something, and then it's always those projects, like you mentioned also, they can be very long. There's no funding, so how the fact to say, okay, now you're going to present it here, or like when you're going to set up this meeting with the World Economic Forum, it's going to give us a great challenge to move on the project and make it better. So I think this is also something that S+TARTS and Leonardo can do, is create this opportunity for the project to have a little bit of a time to get more real in front of other people.
Yeah, and I like I'll echo what everyone else said, for sure. I like the think tank model, or just at least the idea. I mean, certainly, if we think about, at least in the United States, that's how, governments work. Like, the laws aren't really made in the Congress, they're made in think tanks, right? And we could be a little more informal and have these great conversations, but still kind of think of it as a think tank. I think that's a good sort of model to go forward. And even just for how we present ourselves to other outside our field, like the World Economic Forum. Like, no, we're not just a bunch of crazy artists, we're a think tank, right? We're serious.
Yeah. I think it's really important for us to also take that agency in how we connect to those other change makers. So let's do this together. So this is an open invitation, and very excited to continue to work with S+TARTS and all of you. And to feel free to reach out to myself at Leonardo, and I'll add it into the chat, and just let's continue this. And we'll, as the S+TARTS team and the Leonardo team meets, we'll be sharing out some more opportunities for you to connect with us together as well.
Yeah, and we have, you can start by going to starts.eu, and if you want to find us at S+TARTS, but we'll share all this out hopefully in the next minute or two on YouTube and on all of our other socials. And yeah, keep watching this space. We're just beginning. Anything else from you, Orly?
No, I see just seeing on YouTube, and just want to say hello to Gustavo, who is us also since the first session, and he's commenting and saying that he wants to help and to give feedback. So very nice. Thank you, Gustavo, and all the people that are in the YouTube channel.
Yeah, give us feedback. We want more.
Yeah, definitely.
So it looks like we've run out of time. Thank you to all these amazing participants. Thank you to Danielle and Leonardo. Thank you to my S+TARTS colleagues. And we will see you again on the internet, I guess. See you in the future.
Thank you. Thanks for setting this up.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, thanks.